What's up guys, Dana, Octane Addict Autos. I am back out here at Nostalgia Hot Rods. Really excited to kind of get into this new project with you guys. I know I've been dropping some hints along the way, kind of dragging on getting content back out. Make sure you guys go back and check out my last videos, both YouTube, Instagram, kind of keep you up to date on Phoenix, my 1966 Chevelle, and my new project, ONYX. So a few months back, I picked up a body for a 1970 Chevelle. This time I'm doing it my way. I happen to have my first 70 Chevelle, happens to be right behind me out here in the shop today, but I'm down here for a meeting with Kris Horton. Let's bring out Kris Horton and introduce you guys. This is Cars by Kris on Instagram. Good to see you, man. Thank you for making the time coming down today.
Of course.
So I know when I originally reached out to you a couple months back, I explained to you kind of what my first 70 was like. I love that classic plus look, but I was ready to kind of like start pushing some boundaries. You know, this is gonna be a high dollar build for me. And I've seen some of the work that you've done before in the past. I know you're like a phenomenal, rendering artist when it comes to like some of the 3D stuff. And you've worked on some really like high dollar builds in the past. So I was excited to get a chance to work with you. My vision for this was very focused on like, I wanted like true American big block power, right? Like there's something just so visceral about the experience of driving, a 70 Chevelle to me that I didn't want to lose. I also wanted to have this like kind of like not stripped down race car, but like this like race car-esque, like that's the piece of it that draws me in, that like makes you forget about everything else while you're driving the car. But I also wanted to start touching on, what are the different touch points? How do I keep it plush and refined while still being a big gas guzzling, burbly American muscle car, right? So this is where I know that you bring your expertise in with, what different kinds of materials you want to use and some of the general styling points. So I was excited with the first bit of the render, like exterior that you showed me. Let's maybe get into some of the interior cue points. How do you think we can kind of pull this across?
Absolutely. I could kind of show you what I put together for your interior. A lot of the modern cues will come from the materials and the shapes that we use in the interior. So I've added things like perforated leather, Alcantara, brushed aluminum, and then carbon fiber accents to kind of tie it all together. A lot of high-tech stuff going on the exterior, so I want to bring that into the interior.
Yeah, I see you kind of carried some of the design elements even from the exterior, like the exhaust tip that we had rendered out is kind of flowing into like what the dash is. I like that, that's cool.
I know that the window for your suspension is going to be in that same shape, so we did that for the dash cluster. And then it kind of carries through onto the door panels as well.
That looks awesome, yeah.
Nice. And then we've got your big Holley 12.1 inch screen in there. We've got custom AC vents as well, inspired a lot by a lot of the European cars that you see out there with the dial style.
It still has this kind of like muscle car feel to it, albeit modernized and restyled. It's our own take. But.
As a Chevelle guy myself, I didn't want to go way off the rails with it. I wanted it still to feel like a muscle car at the end of the day. You can't take a big car like a Chevelle and turn it into like a Ferrari, but you can definitely be inspired by it and take some of the cues and sort of bring those into the car. And at the end of the day, you still got a giant big block under the hood, so you want it to be something that says muscle car but feels nice when you're driving it.
Do you have anything 3D rendered out with the interior in it we can take a look at?
I do. I've got kind of the makings of the interior here. These are just some 2D concepts I've put together, and now I'm taking it and bringing it into 3D there,
awesome.
So you can see. So we've got the Sparco seats, you got your Spark steering wheel, you got your custom dash design built out, along with things like your Woolwood pedals. So there's still a lot that's kind of in the process of being put together right now. I've got your door panel sketch here that you can kind of see where everything's going to fall when you're sitting in it when all the doors are closed.
That's going to be really sleek, especially with that like rear seat delete and the cage and everything in the back. Like the way that's going to carry across into the back of the car, up into the the IRS window that's back there. I think that's going to be really clean.
We want it all to flow together without being too swoopy. You got a lot of angles on the car. We're kind of trying to keep that.
But I like how you did with like the stitching and everything like that. It's going through that door panel all the way back like that. It still kind of has that, chunkier feel to it.
And with the cage, I think the goal is going to be to try and keep it from being too obtrusive, or intrusive. I don't know the right word there, but basically have it be a feature of the interior, have it be functional for safety, obviously, without having it be the entire identity of the interior.
We were talking about, cage style, size, and all that stuff, and it's got the full halo on it with a full X in the back. It's got all the way down to the chassis in the rear. It's going to be structurally sound, but the little things, right, like the door bar that runs down along, kind of along the seat.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to be stepping over that thing, so I'm going to try to have that cut a little bit before the end of the seats.
So you want to be able to consider where your hands can be, where your elbows can be. Like you said, you don't want them bumping into the cage. So you're trying to find the best solution to have an interior that you're comfortable in. That's where you spend the time. I mean, you're going to spend plenty of time standing on the outside of it, talking about it. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to enjoy being inside the car and driving it. So you want to think about things like what kind of material is your steering wheel going to be. I've seen people go with billet steering wheels. Looks awesome, not so great in the summer, not out here. So you got to think, do you want it to be leather? Do you want it to be Alcantara? Ups and downs on both, Alcantara steering wheels, they get kind of knobby after a while. I've been there before.
Yeah.
And same with seats. You got to think about, out here in Vegas, it gets a little warm, so you got to think, do I want it to breathe or do I want it to look cool? At the end of the day, it can be both, but you want it to be comfortable. I think anyone that's driven a Chevelle before has probably had a little bit of back sweat, but we don't want too much of that going on.
I think it's all kind of coming together. I had a lot of apprehension around how modern I wanted to go with this because I got to be honest, I like a stock 70 interior too.
Nothing wrong with those.
But I think this is a really nice elevated look, and I think it's tasteful. And at the end of the day, I think that's really what it is that I'm looking for. So I think all that back and forth has been worth it.
I was going to say, you're not trying to completely reinvent the car. I think you're trying to, like you said, elevate it. I think that's the key at the end of the day, is take something that's great, make it better, and don't go too far with it. I mean, so it's going to feel high end, but it's not going to be way out there.
Yeah. So we've got a pretty good idea for where we want to go.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, we did a sort of a first draft on it.
Yeah.
Before I ever met you, Dustin called me up one day and said, I got another Chevelle for you. And I said, well, okay, sign me up. And he had some ideas for it, and it sounded pretty cool. It's a big center exhaust. And I said, okay, sounds interesting. And then he says, lots of black. It's going to be really sinister looking. So, okay, I like it. So we did our first draft, and then really, I think once they got their hands on the actual car, it, as with most projects, it sort of evolved, and now it's changing, and I think it's going to be classy. I think it's going to be aggressive, and most importantly, it's going to be a Chevelle. So
I think you touched on a really important point there, and there's a balance between this, right? Where if at times I've kind of like, hey, here's the range, like, come up with a few different options, go as far as you want to go with it, bring it back, because I'm like brainstorming at that point, right?
Yeah.
But then I've also got like these like really skilled fabrication guys out here who are physically bending the metal.
They can literally
to make this
do
shit,
anything,
right? To make this stuff happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, where is this balance between the vision, what can be done, how and what materials and how it gets done, and the vision that's coming from us and from your skill being able to present it to them to be able to kind of understand what it is that we're trying to look for, and then actually being able to execute on that. There's this like, it kind of morphs and takes its own form along the way that it really needs to be, and shows you what it wants.
I remember I talked with you and Dustin about the dash, and I said, okay, I'm gonna come up with something cool. So we all had a conversation, and I think we figured some things out. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be like the showpiece of the interior, right?
When I saw what you had designed out, after seeing it, I couldn't not have that in the car. I kind of fell in love with what that style was, and I really wanted to take it from there, because the styling cues on that I think are going to flow really well throughout the rest of the vehicle. So
yes.
I think this is pretty true to what we're actually going to end up with, and I feel really confident where we're at on the process so far. I can't wait to kind of see this cross the finish line and get it to actually see the interior,
Absolutely. Well, and considering who's building it, it's going to come out awesome.
Man, well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Thank you for making the time and coming down here and listening to me nag about all the different revisions on things along the way. But
it's all part of the process.
I can't say enough, man. I'm really happy with what you've been able to produce, and giving me something to help, communicate the vision towards the guys other than Dustin who aren't necessarily a part of the meetings all the time so that they can kind of execute it properly. But
Yeah.
I feel really comfortable at this point. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
That's what I'm here for.
All right. I'm really excited to get the final renditions for my new 1970 Chevelle project out to you guys. Make sure you guys stay tuned because we're heading out to Hot Rods and Helos with Phoenix, my 1966 Chevelle. I'll have some stuff on that. And then in a couple short weeks, I'll have some updates on fabrication on the 70 Chevelle. Make sure you guys go follow Kris at Cars by Kris on Instagram. Make sure you guys are following me on Instagram, YouTube, Octane Addict Autos. Catch you next time. Bye.